Well, I may have, by the end of the day today, I may have some monster news. Um, Monster news. I can tell you about it after the show. I can't name drop just yet, but if I get something signed on Monday, I'll bring it up for next week's show. We'll talk about biz dev a little bit. We'll talk about networking. We'll talk about, you and I talk about this a lot, about having that 100 to 200 people kind of in your Rolodex that you always kind of do that quarterly check-in with.
Yep.
And I did that this morning with one of my guys, and it went from one to a million in about 17 minutes. Like, it was just like on one of my walks this morning, I was like, oh man, I got to check in with, I'll say his first name, it doesn't matter. Like, I got to check in with Steve. I'm like, what's going on? And he tells me, just gives me a real quick update. I'm on my phone, on my walk, just doing my voice to dictate thing. Like I love doing now. Yep. And I'm like, Steve, what's good? He's like, actually, I was just thinking about you. He goes, we got to talk about something. I'm like, yeah, what's that? He goes, I'm working with this new client that may really fit well with what you do. I go, okay, cool. So I sent him a few ideas. He's on the phone with his guy this afternoon, and it could just be a monster opportunity. I mean, a monster opportunity. And all it took was just one quick, hey, what's going on? What's good? What's good in your world? It's just amazing how that happens.
Yeah, 1,000%. It's one of the biggest things. Like, nobody's ever said yes to a question they weren't asked.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
How often do you do that? Do you want to do it more in terms of just checking in with people and saying, what's happening, what's good in your world, and then not with, asking without any expectations, I guess is my question.
I do that all the time. I make a point of it, kind of how you have like your first, whatever it is, 20 minutes, half hour of your day. It's kind of dedicated to, interacting with people or basically doing something before that you try to ask for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I do that religiously in the morning. There was a handful of people I hit up this morning, just kind of watching their stuff. And like, they've been, it's one of those things, we talk about it with clients all the time, how a lot of times you'll watch and you'll consume stuff, but not interact with it. And we forget that. And there's just a handful of people, some of them even up in your neck of the woods, that I just kind of been watching the stuff they've been posting, and they're just like doing some really cool shit.
Yep.
So literally took just a half hour this morning just to like shoot a quick message like, hey, see what's going on. Like, that's super awesome, man. Like, pumped for you. And it's just like literally zero intent. The only intent is that you want them to know that you're pumped for them.
Yeah. And that's it. That's all you do. You just reach out and say, what's up?
Yeah. And it's weird. It's weird. We're adding to the team here shortly, and we started interviews yesterday. And one of them asked me about like our biz dev or our sales strategy. And I'm like, there ain't one. We just kind of do what we do. We put it out there, and then it just kind of grows organically. But it has got me thinking, like, especially and maybe it's just on my mind because it feels like fall today, but like, especially heading into fall and winter in the world that we're in right now, I'm like, maybe it does make more sense for us to do that, where we've always kind of just been, build it and let them come to you when they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Because like with us, we're such a commitment, both time wise and dollar wise, that unless that you have a recognized desire to use us, like, I'm probably not going to convince you to like the analogy that I use, like, I can't go to that guy outside and convince him to come start working out.
Right.
But if I'm a personal trainer or a gym, and then somebody comes to me, I can put together like a 6-month plan for them to start getting in shape based on what they want to do. And that's how I've always thought about this place, where if somebody comes to us and say, hey, we have a need for what you do, cool, we're in.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like trying to sell people on what we do and like, hey, even if you're not thinking about it yet, you should look at it, you know what I mean? But so I've always been super hesitant for that because it was such an uphill battle. And like, somehow to this day, on September 11th, 2020, there's still people that think Facebook's like a fad or a new thing or something you let the intern do. So I've never wasted time on that. I don't waste time on anything, but I've never wasted time on that. But it did get me thinking just after the girl that we were interviewing left yesterday, I'm like, fuck, like, is this a good time to do that? Where we can basically be like, look, October and like regular flu season are coming. So like we saw how important a digital strategy is, like literally life and death business wise in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Saw how important that was back in March. And like to some extent, that's going to happen again.
Right.
Like we talked about last week, even if it's just paranoia amongst half of the population out there that don't want to stand in line when somebody's coughing or sneezing, just because that's what happens in upstate New York in October, November, December.
Yep.
So it did get me kind of thinking, does that make more sense to kind of go out there and, kind of not necessarily like the normal strategy of just like hitting people up, like, yo, you good? Mm-hmm. But just if it's, people that you've talked to and maybe the timing wasn't right or, any multitude of reasons, my wheels are turning a little bit on that as far as like being a little bit more proactive rather than like, hey, what do you need? Much more like, hey, here's what I think you could do and what would make sense for your industry.
Why do you start biz deving at the beginning of the day? And maybe not even biz deving. Why do you check in with, this is kind of a line I've been using lately is, when people ask me what I do, I go, very simply, I do very cool things with very cool people.
Yep.
What I do. And it could look many, many different ways. Why do you choose to do that first thing in the morning?
It goes back to my first sales job that I ever had. And I had a manager that I just loved working with because we just saw the world in very similar ways. And he always told me that your first interaction of the day is going to set the tone for how you're going to look at the rest of your day. Mm-hmm. And I've always believed that. And that, like, for me, kind of reaching out and just getting kind of hyped and getting kind of inspired by what other people are doing is always fun for me. And then at the same time, it just gets me thinking anyway, because as soon as I reach out, or if you're thinking like, how would I help him here? Mm-hmm. What would I do for her in this situation? And it just gets my wheels turning. And it gets me kind of just set in that mindset to look at situations and look at people and, how can I help? How can I be an asset? How can I create value? Even if it's not hiring us, you know what I mean? Like if somebody like needs like you, or they need apparel done, or they need restaurant equipment or whatever, just to be an asset and to keep that positive momentum going. Cause like, I think it's just a big karma thing. Because the more you do that for other people, the more they're going to do that for you when somebody else in their network needs marketing, or they post 3 months from now, like, God, every marketing company sucks. Like, they're all the same. Like, well, actually, there's these guys down in Binghamton that are different. And I don't know, it sets a good tone for me, and it puts me in a good spot mentally, where then just attacking the rest of my day, I'm just like locked in.
So do you open up? So let's go through this tactically. Is that done on Instagram DM? Is that done on is that direct Facebook Messenger? Is that commenting on somebody's content, or what's your go-to strategy on that?
It's all the above. It's like sometimes it's Instagram DM. Sometimes I'm a big fan of just commenting on Facebook statuses with people that, like get a bigger, more public conversation going. I think that's great. And then like LinkedIn, obviously, like LinkedIn's just a phenomenal strategy, and I'm still way underutilizing that. Like I'm just now like starting to get off my ass and like really being intentional and having a plan put together for that. But like we always tell our people, it's wherever your people are, that's where you have to be, and it's kind of like a floating scale with me on like, what do I do more of? But all of them.
See, I can't do that. I physically cannot move on throughout my day. So I get up early. I get up about 5:45, and for the first hour and a half. So Siobhan's gone. She gets up at 4:45. She gets her workout in. She gets dressed, goes to work. She leaves the house at about 6. So we say hello in the morning, and then for the next hour and a half until 7:30, I have a touch with each one of my clients via email. So I am in my inbox for an hour and a half to start every single day. If I don't do that, my entire day has been completely jumbled. Like I have to see what's come in overnight. You know, I have to see what's come in from California. I have to see what's come in from Hawaii, all these different places from around the world. And then I have to cultivate that, give my 2 cents and tell everybody I'm working with, here's what the goal is for today. So for me, I have to have those cogs in place. I have to have that before I can biz dev. Because if I biz dev, like I just did this yesterday, I biz deved at the end of the day. I sent out 12 messages. I think I have 3 phone calls on Monday, and then I have one straight opportunity. Like just, hey, give me the lowdown, give me the proposal, give me everything you do right now.
Right.
I can't invite more chaos in until the dishes have been washed. You know, I can't bring in another pizza box until I have everything set here. So for me, I like to biz dev when I find those extra 5 minutes. So like for me, with the kids going back to school, I mean, it's been the last 2 days have just been like, oh my gosh, like I just found 45 minutes to an hour where I wasn't making breakfast, making lunch, driving everybody around town, going to play dates, going to, baseball practice, whatever it was. So for me, like all of a sudden, I was talking to a buddy of mine about this yesterday. He goes, because I was really kind of down on myself, and it had a lot to do with the kids going back and a lot of uncertainties and anxieties and things like that. And I was talking to my buddy, and he goes, Ben, you really need to downshift a minute and think about things. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you have been home with the kids for 6 months, and you've driven your business for 6 months, and your business has not dropped off one lick. He goes, how much has the business grown? And I said, it's grown almost 70% since March. He goes, and you've been able to kind of spin it this way. He goes, look at what's going to happen if the kids are able to stay in school and continue to grow. He goes, so structure it out and schedule it out your time. So my question to you is, do you actually put that in your schedule? Do you put biz devs in that, or is it just kind of the natural flow of how you go about doing it?
I have to, I don't so much like put it in my schedule, but I just know like the first half hour of my day. And then like, I always like to take time like Tuesday morning and then do the same thing, just because I think that that's a good time of the week, and then just kind of going through. But, it's one of the biggest weaknesses I have is I don't structure that. I don't set time away. And I think that that's kind of, it really gets you thinking, because it's weird. I had a meeting with a longtime friend of mine that has like a very successful business in town. And we were talking about the same thing where business is so good and it's grown so much just by word of mouth and direct referrals that you can trick yourself into thinking, well, I don't necessarily have to do that. I don't necessarily have to invest time in, active business development, or like ironically, even marketing ourselves. Like it's the most ironic thing, like plumber's sink is always the leakiest. We don't do much of anything to market ourselves because stuff's thankfully been good. But then if you stop and think like, well, shit, if something's good, more is better. You know what I mean? Like what's wrong with stuff being that good and then having another 2 or 3 clients come in from the actual biz dev stuff that you're doing. And when you say it out loud, like you're laughing, like, yeah, like no shit, Sherlock. Like that's like the most obvious thing in business. But a lot of times, if you don't force yourself to take a step back and like work on the business as a whole instead of just working at it,
yep,
it's easy to lose sight of that. Because there are so many things that the business needs, that clients need, that your day-to-day needs every day, that you lose sight of like doing the extras that are actually going to be 10 times more valuable than making sure Nice Egg gets their money every month. You know what I mean? Which like obviously I know Nice Egg has to get their money. I'm not saying that. I need the light confidence. But so that's a big thing, and I've been really cognizant of it, and then especially just looking at where we're at in the world for what we do. you know, from April until about July or August, a lot of people that I would try to biz dev with, that wasn't the right time.
Mm.
You know, for them to not, they don't know us yet, and they don't know that once you have us, it's actually going to help that problem.
Mm.
I'm always cognizant of like, how are they going to look at this? And everybody, until they sit down with us, we look and sound like every other marketing and advertising agency out there.
Yep.
We say the same shit. We just actually go do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always cognizant of that. Like, you don't want to be the dude out there saying, hey, give me like $1,400 a month to be your marketing guy. Mm-hmm. Because when they're looking at their bottom line and how they're down 60% over last year, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Get out of here. Yep. Whereas now, you know, stuff has stabilized-ish. And we have enough of a track record of adapting plans with our clients to get them through March, April, May, that we can harken back to that and be like, hey, like, here's what we did. Looking at your situation, it could be cool if we did something like this and really be proactive about it, so that we're not panicked. And it's just a much easier conversation to have.
Yep.
So it's just, I think there's a lot of psychology that goes into it that when you break it down and you do it effectively, like, I don't know, like, we'll speed up our takeover of the world. I got no problem with that.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Do it.
If you and I, when, not if, because we know we're gonna do it.
Right.
When you and I get serious about this program, about marketing it properly, how soon do you think, and I'm not saying this for any other reason, I'm not saying this for a goal or for you or for me. If you and I said we wanted to survive, we wanted to live on this show, like literally, if the world blew up, if KBL and Life of Riley blew up and you and I needed to live on this, how quickly do you think it could happen? And where would you see multiple streams of revenue coming in, potentially?
I mean, I think that it's so, like, how quickly could it happen? Instantly.
Yeah.
Because we've done the work and we know how to get it in front of the right people. How many revenue streams could you have? Like, how many do you want? It's 2020 out there, you know, like obviously the most obvious, quickest answer is like, well, duh, just do like straight up one-on-one consulting, where rather than us talking about ourselves or like high level stuff out there,
yep,
you're like, okay, Randy, like, where are we at? What are we dealing with? Like, and then just go from there.
Yep.
I'm trying to change up my generic names to mix it up a little bit. So Randy's my new one.
Steve.
But I mean, to answer your question, so easily.
Yeah.
So easily. And like, that's what we're doing now.
Right.
Like I use the show all the time where like, if we're like meeting like a new prospect or like any of these kids that like we're interviewing, I'm like, if you want any idea on how this place runs and what we're about and what we believe in, just go look up Key Branding Labs on YouTube, start at episode 1 and go.
Pre-pandemic episode 1.
Right.
Yeah.
And like how did we respond to the pandemic for our people? Start at episode 4 and go. Like, you know, I think that's the good part about it. Is like, sometimes people get hyped over nuance. Like, they think that Facebook is its own thing and I need to figure out Facebook, and then Instagram is its own thing. I got to figure out Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok and Snapchat. It's just people at the end of the day. So like, the same stuff that like works marketing wise is the same stuff that works with the show. It's the same stuff that works with like consulting and advising. Like, the principles, like 86% of the work is identical. Just that last 14% changes on what we're trying to do. But like, even some of like the combination projects that we're working on, you and I tactically are doing way different stuff for people.
Yep.
But on a principle and on a backbone level, it's exactly the same.
Yep.
And that's it. And the faster that you realize that, the easier everything else gets.
Mhm.
as far as monetizing or revenue streams or anything like that, like anything that where you could apply that to like fix a problem for somebody. That's it. So
And the reason I asked that question is not for my own, not for my own benefit, not for your own benefit. We are lucky enough where we are successful enough in our individual lives and businesses where we don't need revenue from this show.
right.
The reason for that question was, if I'm watching this or listening to this or watching it live, or, you know, and thanks everybody, as always, Dan, Debbie, Ange, Brian, everybody, Kyle, thank you. It doesn't take long to lay down that runway if you want to monetize something on the side. It doesn't take that long. This is episode 26. We started what? This third week of January. We've missed, I think, 3 weeks out of 20, out of like 30, something like that. So we've spent six months, 26, you know, probably 31 hours together on something that we love to talk about, and people are already seeing value. We're already seeing that. So if you had to hold my feet to the fire and we had to go get sponsors and we did reads and we did, you know, sponsored posts, and, you know, I'm wearing a hat that I get paid for and you're wearing a t-shirt that you get paid for and things like that. I'm not kidding when I say, I bet you and I could hustle enough to make between $10,000 and $15,000 a month off this show. I seriously think that if we pounded the phones in the network enough.
Yep.
My point is this: if you want, and this is something that we love to do, this was something that we just decided to do one day because we knew it was the right thing to lay down the groundwork, and it was great to catch up on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. So if you have a passion and you have a project that you've always thought about working on, find your version of Adam and Ben, record your Zoom call once a week, lay down the groundwork, and then start calling people and saying, hey, I'm looking for sponsors for my show, or I'm looking for branded deals to mention on the show, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are no, you said it yourself, 2020, there are no lines anymore. There's no lines in beverage alcohol anymore. There's no lines in beverage, period. Travis Scott is dropping concerts in Fortnite. Travis Scott is dropping burgers at McDonald's. The word of the year is collaboration. You know, if you and I decided to collaborate with other podcasts, we could probably be on a podcast every single day talking about our own show and doing this. My point is, find the thing that you're passionate about, like you and I find about attention and awareness and media and personal branding and all the things that we love to do. Find that niche, turn on a camera for 6 months, then say, would you like to be the official pizzeria of the Adam and Ben conversation? Yes, I would. What's that going to cost me? $300 a month. Great. We're going to eat pizza on the show, and we're going to read about Valentine's Pizza in Skaneateles because it's my favorite pizzeria. So that's my point, is there are so many ways to make revenue. There are so many ways to do side hustle, and it can be in things that you already love to do. Like if I had to do it, I love those watch videos, those reaction watch videos. And you're probably too young to remember. You remember the old Mystery Science Theater 3000? It was on like Sci-Fi. It's like
we're like the silhouettes of the.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, if I had to do it, I would do it with my buddy Scott Baldwin, and I would sit there virtually, and we would watch old. You know, I already know what I'm going to say. We would watch old wrestling videos on YouTube, and we'd have a couple beers, and we would laugh until we cried, just making comments. Like if I ever wanted to do a Barstool Sports style of show, that's who I would do it with and what I would do. But you get my point, is there's so much opportunity to be had.
Basically, yeah, if you look at it, and I understand the irony of me like oversimplifying like the internet and like the barrier of entry that like is social media, but it's all it done is it's removed the middleman. So like, yep. That's a great analogy. There's nothing revolutionary about the concept. You know, the idea has literally been done. The difference being now that like, if you guys are talented and entertaining enough, You can just do it and put it out there. You don't need a production deal with sci-fi. You don't need licensing from movies that are being played on TV. You don't need any of that anymore. All that's gone. All you literally need is a camera and some actual talent and whatever you want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And then that's over. And then I'm literally any topic, like sports, video games, wrestling, reality TV, like you name it. Like if you are good enough and you are funny enough, you can literally do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And the more you do it, no matter what you're doing, like the more shit you're going to sell because of it. Like you just are, So like, that's the thing. Like this show is like number one on like my list of like figuring out like the one thing that we have to do, like the content's there. Now we just have to get it in front of the right audience and build that audience. Yep. And then all of a sudden, we can track. Guess what? We can see exactly how many people are watching right now, which is amazing. Like the middle of the day, 10 people are just sitting here. I'm going to stop and I'm going to watch these two idiots talk on Facebook. Awesome. Love you guys.
Exactly.
But we can watch on YouTube too. How many people are watching the show there? We can go to the podcast when that's up, see how many listeners we have every month. And then you track that. Mm-hmm. If you have a talented, content distribution team, which I think we might know some people for, that gets pretty easy. And then you start doing that for 6 months. And then all of a sudden, the third week of January of next year, you're up to 50 episodes. But, oh, wait, you added 2 zeros to the end of the people that are actually consuming it. And then you want to talk about sponsors or whatever, or you name it, then that's huge.
Yep.
And I think the big thing that it does is it scales the first 2 or 3 interactions that you would have with somebody one-on-one to tens of thousands. Whereas before, like they'd have to meet you or I and like talk and kind of like hang out a little bit and, just shoot the shit or whatever. They can go watch the show. Cause like, that's the other thing. Like people, the reason that we have people that watch every week, like, this is just how me and you are all the time.
Yep.
Nothing, there's nothing fancy about it.
Yep.
So then when you actually like meet somebody, it's like, oh shit, I feel like I know these guys. Yeah, exactly. Like somebody else, like we just talked about it, like onboarding a client the other day. It's never one thing.
Right.
Like if somebody's going to hire you to do what they do, they hear about it from somebody and then they check out your LinkedIn and then they see that you have a mutual connection there. So they ask them and then they see your Instagram and then everything works together. Mm-hmm. Stuff like this is just that huge foundation. Like we see it all the time. It's like people that, maybe like hear about us from a client or a friend, but then, like they saw the show and then like, oh yeah, my friend was, met you at the incubator one time. Okay, awesome. It's always 7 things that get you work. It's never one. Mm-hmm. You could do something like this where you're putting down such a large sample size and such a wide looking view into like who me and you are as dudes, which like, oh, by the way, that's a big chunk of what we sell. You're knocking out the first 60% of whatever biz dev conversation you're going to have.
Yep. I want this show to be a roadmap for people. I want them to see, that's why we wanted to document this journey. I mean, I do want to get to the point where, and now's probably a good time. And I know we had something on the calendar and I screwed it up. Big surprise. I screwed something up, but I think we're getting very close if we're not there for that whiteboard session about how we're going to do this thing, about how we're going to distribute this. And if it's during a Friday show and to say, all right, here's the schedule of how we're going to do this and get very granular about how we're going to distribute this content, how we're going to chop it up now that I have my new machine that I was too cheap to buy myself. So my wife bought it for me. Thank you very much for my anniversary last week. Now that I have the proper equipment to do it, I can hold up my end of the bargain in terms of chopping this stuff up and distributing it properly. So now I think I would love long-term, even if it's not to live on for the money aspect of it, just to show the work that has to go in to then have, again, my favorite word, the audacity to ask somebody for money to sponsor this show will then have the metrics to support it. We will show, here's how many people are on live. Here's how many people watch replays on YouTube. Here's how many people on podcast. Here's the trajectory. Here's the attention, blah, 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 blah. Then all of a sudden, hey, if you and I are making an extra $5,000 a month just sitting down and doing what we're already doing, guess what? That pays some bills and we can have some, that's the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I see this whole thing going. And if you're cool with it, I think we're ready for a content distribution whiteboard session.
I think so, 1,000,000%. You know, and I think that's the great part about doing it the way that we've done it, is that you can have stuff that apply to everything. Like, I'm already getting psyched for it because, like, fucking episode 2, like right after the Super Bowl, like I already said, we're going to use this episode when football starts next year, and then it's a whole thing. And like I'm already thinking that way. And then it's already going to work. And then heaven forbid we start doing it and it starts working, just knowing how you're wired and I'm wired, you're going to do 10 times more of it.
Right.
And then I'm so amped because it's just like, it's not lost on me. Like, you want to get real granular with it. Like, it's not lost on me that like, this is going to have to be like one of the next things that we're going to do for clients in the near future.
Yep.
You know, everybody and their fucking cousin has a podcast. Okay, cool. We could do that. Here's what we're going to do. And then just map it out that way. And then like, we're already your own best client for that. And then you have a year's worth of track record to show.
Right.
Oh, you want to charge me that much to do it? How do I know it's going to work? Because this is how. It
just did. And that's the investment. That's a 12-month, and you're probably right on the timing. That's a 12-month investment. Mm-hmm. Talk about patience. You know, most people try things 3 times. Oh, I posted 3 times on Facebook. It didn't work. Or I ran an ad on Facebook. It didn't work. Or, you know, I ran a 5K. I don't have a 6-pack yet.
Exactly.
You know? It's like, it takes time, but that's where I think we should do it. Should we do an extra session for the whiteboard, or should it just be part of what we're already doing?
So what I would do is I would probably do, I don't know if I would like live stream the whiteboard sessions, because visually that's going to be hard, but I think we do the whiteboard session like leading up to the show, and then that week's show, we just break it down.
Okay.
And then that's it.
Okay. So is this next week you're thinking?
Whenever, bro.
So it's an hour before this, we whiteboard, and then we do this?
It could be Tuesday. And then do it, and then the show Friday is, all right, here's the plan. You guys get to watch it as it happens.
I love it. All right, I'm going to pull an audible here in a minute, and I'll show you why. Vince, Bonnie, thank you very much. Kate, Eric, always good to see you. Last call for questions on Facebook and Instagram. You know, for me, it's the same thing. It's thank you for, you know, spending. I don't care if you pop in. I can't tell you. Let me back up. I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody jump in, because I watch on my phone for the comments, just because it's easier for me to watch on my phone than it is, because it closes out a window on me on here, because I'm not technically savvy. Big surprise. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody's name pop in, and it says it says Adam Sable's watching, and then all of a sudden I know that person's gone after 30 minutes or 30 seconds, like 30 seconds. I appreciate that you popped in, that you saw the notification that I went live enough to stop what you're doing, whether you're sitting at Pewter Spoon having a sandwich, or you're at your office desk, or you're at your phone and you shouldn't be at work. You chose to hit that little red 1, and it said Ben Riley's live or Adam Sable's live, and you clicked in. Like, because it's not just that, it's those same people, because I keep a little memory bank of people's names that I've seen through here. A lot of people are here every week or every other week, and that's amazing. But like every little while, I'll be at like the farmer's market or something, and somebody will come up to me and say, "Hey, I love your show." And it's one of those people that is like every 3 months they kind of jump in. And I don't know for how long, and it's just incredible to me for that. So for that, I thank you. A little bit of a tangent, but that's what's on my mind. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to go mobile.
Yeah, baby.
I'm going to show you if I get, because it does feel so fallish now, so that we're going to go inside for rearranging. I'll show you the sneak peek of what I teased last week. So this
Oh,
will be the new, so this is going to be the new office, which also doubles as the laundry room.
love it.
So we got the laundry room on the 3rd floor. So this is going to be, so yeah, I'm already starting to set up. I got my second screen. I got my Pebble, wherever my Pebble Beach flag is, that's where the office is.
Back home, sweet home.
Yep. So as you can see, we have couches that are getting thrown around right now. So what it's going to look like next week is, so here's the second screen. This is going to be me up here. I'm going to have to work on some lighting, but this is what you're going to see in the background. And then I'm in the process of cutting out all my kids' old jerseys that don't fit them, like their little league jerseys and stuff.
Yep.
And I'm in the process of getting those framed. So it's going to be a whole bunch of little Riley, little league and softball, baseball jerseys behind me.
Dude, that's gonna be dope.
Isn't that cool? But this is called the green room, as you can imagine. And it's always been the green room since the moment we moved in. But this is going to be the new backdrop.
That's gonna be some fun lighting.
So that's what I need. We're getting some canister lights put in, which should help. And I'm going to try to get my hair situated at some point, so you don't always have the dark bill over it. But that's going to be the new permanent backdrop.
I think the world liked backwards happening last week. I would just let that look right, dude. That's what I'm saying. I trust you more already.
All right. Everybody, thanks for watching. As always, episode 26. We'll be back with this hideous and to some really, really fun looking backgrounds next week. So
Wait.
cheers. Thanks for watching, everybody.
See you.